Hello friends, I'm Dr. A.S.K. Gupta and I'm going to talk to you about the vaccine against corona, the current status. As you all know, as on date, more than 50 lakh people all across the world have suffered from COVID-19 and about 3.25 lakh people have died from the disease, and there is no treatment as of now approved against the disease. The only light which is seen at the end of the tunnel is the hope of a vaccine. I'm going to talk today about the vaccine, the various vaccines, and their current status. Before we go into the details of vaccine, and it is important to know how does the coronavirus infect the human cells and how do the human cells protect themselves by mounting a immunological response. This yellow virus, you can see that has multiple spikes, and these spikes are called as spike proteins. Inside the virus is the nucleic acid, which is the RNA. The spike proteins attached to the ACE receptors found on the various cells of the lungs, intestines, kidneys, and the heart. And once the virus is there inside the human cell, it releases nucleic acid material, and the ribosomes present in the cytoplasm of the human cells, they start forming the proteins as per the direction of the nucleic acid material of the virus. And the multiple copies of the virus are formed inside the human cell, and these number of copies they are released and they start infecting the other cells. To counter the virus attack, the human body mounts a immunological response by way of presenting the antigen presenting cells. These antigen presenting cells will engulf the virus. Simultaneously, they will represent the virus on its dendrites, and this virus which is presented on the dendrites of the antigen presenting cells is latched by the T helper cells. These T helper cells, they in turn activate the beta cells which start forming the antibodies, and these antibodies they will neutralize the virus by attaching to the spike protein in the virus. If the virus has already entered some cells, these cells will be killed by the cytotoxic T cells. And it is also important to know that the long-lived memory B and T cells keep on patrolling the human body for a long time, maybe months and maybe years, so that whenever there is attack of the virus, these cells become active and start forming the immunity again. Whole of the world has been trying to form different types of vaccine. In fact, in the vaccine formation all across the world, no technique has been left untried. We are going to talk about various types of vaccine so that you can understand what sort of vaccines are being produced in different parts of the world. First is the whole virus vaccine, in which the virus is attenuated or it is weakened by use of genetic material or the genetic techniques. The mutations are creating in the virus so that the virus becomes weak, and it does not cause a disease in the humans, but it is able to cause the immune response. So this live attenuated virus can be injected in human beings so as to produce the immunity. And secondly, it is also possible that the virus is either killed by the heat or it is affected by the chemicals so that it remains uninfectious to the human body. But because the immunogenic material is there in the virus, whenever such a virus is introduced in the human body, it is likely to mount a immunological response, and the body is going to get protected. We have a large amount of experience of producing such vaccines in the past, and a company of the USA called as Coda Genex with the Serum Institute of India is changing the genetic code to weaken the coronavirus, which is a very efficient method. But there is always risk of safety in these viruses which have been weakened or which have been killed, because these viruses, if one thinks that they have been weakened or attenuated completely, they might still remain active and they may cause disease into the human being. So the risk always remains there. So in such a situation, it has been found to be effective that we, instead of using the whole virus, we use the part of the virus so as to give up the chances of developing the disease by injection of the vaccine. Instead of using the whole virus to be introduced in the human body, because it can cause the risk of disease, it was thought that why not to inject the small proteins from the virus and these proteins are called the M proteins or the S proteins. Once they are injected inside the human body, and they can mount the immunological response, and they can be pretty effective. About 28 teams all across the world are working on this type of protein subunit vaccine, and it is pretty difficult to make these proteins outside the human body, outside the virus, because it requires good amount of laboratories. So it was thought that the initially some protein can be manufactured, and this gene which is required for the manufacturing of this protein is inserted into another virus or in some plants, and these plants or the viruses will now start forming the genetic material of the virus. And once it is the protein is formed by these plants or the other viruses, this protein can be purified and can be injected into the human body. These vaccines are pretty safe and they are easier to produce. SARS vaccine of this type was able to protect the monkeys against the infection. And however, these vaccines have not been tested in the people for a long time. And in this category, most important is the viral vector vaccines. About 25 teams all across the world are working on this types of vaccine. In this, the genetic material of the coronavirus is integrated into the another virus which is known as the adenovirus, and the genetic material along with the adenovirus is injected into the human body, and once inside the human body this virus starts infecting the human cells, and the genome of the spike protein in the coronavirus starts forming the spike proteins which are immunogenic, and the human body starts developing the antibodies against them. And adenovirus himself, being a non-infectious virus, is not likely to cause a disease. Sometimes this virus, the adenovirus, is made non-replicating by inactivating its genes which are responsible for the replication of the virus. And large number of teams are working all across the world, and the Ebola virus vaccine is also a viral vector vaccine which has been developed in the past, and the expertise to develop this sort of vaccine is there in the world. And the only problem with this sort of vaccine is that in case the human body has antibodies against the adenovirus or the vector virus, then they might neutralize the adenovirus or the vector virus when it is injected into the human body, and the vaccine might become non-effective. To overcome this problem, it was found that rather than using the virus vector, the genetic material of the coronavirus is directly injected into the human body, and we are going to talk about them shortly. These are the nucleic acid vaccines, and in these vaccines, the nucleic acid material of the coronavirus is integrated into another DNA, and this DNA is introduced in the human cells by a technique called as electroporation. Sometimes the RNA is inserted into the human body directly, and the human cells, they act according to the advice of this DNA or the RNA of the coronavirus and start forming these spike proteins. Once these spike proteins are formed, the human body starts mounting the response against them, and the immunological response is developed, and this immunological response is able to protect the human body from the attack of the coronavirus. These nucleic acid vaccines are pretty safe, and they have been being developed potentially fast. There may be some issues with these vaccines because we have not much of experience with the uh, nucleic acid vaccines for a long time. Because the coronavirus is an unprecedented disease in the 21st century, where the development of vaccines facilities are there. All types of strategies are being adopted by the various scientists in the world. About 7 to 8 scientists and teams are working on the inactivated or weakened virus vaccine. About 28 teams are working on the viral vector vaccines, and they are pretty popular. And about 20 teams are working on the nucleic acid vaccines, and about 33 teams seem to be working on the protein subunit or the virus particle vaccine. Nearly 100 research groups all across the world are racing to develop a vaccine, and the WHO has shortlisted about 7 to 8 candidates for the COVID-19 vaccine, which appear to be the front runner for the effective vaccine as on today. I go into the details of various vaccines, it is important to know various phases in which the vaccine development takes place. First is the concept of the vaccine and the laboratory development of the vaccine. Second is the preclinical studies or the animal studies in which the rhesus monkeys or the mice, the vaccine is given to find the immunogenicity of the vaccine and calculate the dose of the vaccine in human beings based on the pharmacokinetics and the pharmacodynamic principles. Then start the phase 1 trials or the human trials in which less than 100 people are recruited and a vaccine is injected into them or given to them by other route as desirable, and these people are followed up for the development of immunogenicity, side effects, and the efficacy of the vaccine. Once the safety profile of these 100 people is fine, then the phase 2 human trials start, and about 1,000 people are recruited to test the immunogenicity and the safety of the vaccine. Out of these 1,000 people, about 50% are given the actual vaccine, and 50% people are given the placebo so as to find the immunogenicity and the other effects. Once the vaccine is found in these 1,000 people, and the phase 3 clinical trials, they recruit thousands of people where belong to the various ethnic groups and in various nations, so that the overall effect of the vaccine can be studied across wide range of nations. As we were talking about the various front-running vaccines as on date, AD5 and CoV or the recombinant novel corona vaccine is the front line vaccine runner in the scenario of today, and it is being developed by the China based company called as a CanSino Biologicals Incorporation with the help of the People's Liberation Army of China. And it is important to know that the CanSino Biologics Incorporation has already manufactured an approved vaccine for Ebola, and this is the vaccine as of date, the first vaccine to enter the second phase of the human clinical trials, and company has tied up with the Canadian National Research Council for the clinical trials. AdCov AD5 and CoV2 is a genetically engineered vaccine with a replication defective adenovirus type 5 as a vector to express the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein. Inside the human body, the SARS-CoV-2 protein spike proteins are generated, and the human body starts mounting the immunological response against them, and this immunological response saves the human body from the coronavirus attack. Phase 2 clinical trials of this vaccine are expected to last about 6 months, and we are likely to have a vaccine by the end of this year. However, the CEO of the company stated that the vaccine is expected for the commercial use in the March to June 2021. Second candidate among the popular vaccines, the frontline runners for the vaccine is the CAD-OX1 and COVID-19 vaccine, which is being developed jointly by the Oxford University of Britain and the AstraZeneca, the pharmaceutical giant. And the vaccine is similar to the Chinese AD5 and COVID vaccine in terms of technique. This vaccine also uses an adenovirus vector to introduce genes that produce novel coronavirus spike proteins inside the human body. Such a vaccine was originally developed for MERS, and the phase 1 immunogenicity trials of this vaccine are complete. And a group of monkeys which was exposed to the SARS-CoV-2 virus after being injected with the vaccine, it was found that many of these monkeys, rather all the monkeys, were not able to have a very serious disease and the vaccine protected them for developing serious pneumonia caused by the coronavirus infection. Though these monkeys were able to develop mild disease, but later on the company clarified, because these monkeys were exposed to very heavy virus dose, and human beings are not likely to expose such a heavy virus dose of coronavirus, so it is likely to prevent even the mild infection in the human beings once it is injected into them. Vaccine was found to be pretty safe, so the early stage human trials of the vaccine began way back in April, and about in mid up to the mid May 2020, about 1,000 volunteers have been recruited for the phase 2 clinical trials, and about half of them have been given the vaccine and half have been given the placebo. And the full clinical trial of this vaccine is expected to be completed by the May next year. The expert university scientists working on the vaccine are so confident they have taken the risk of ordering mass production of the vaccine with the help of several manufacturers, including the India based Serum Institute of India, which the company has invested about 400 crores of rupees into the development of this vaccine, and they hope to produce about 20 to 40 million doses of the vaccine by the end of September 22, by the end of September 2020. And the overconfidence is so much that vaccine production has been started at mass scale across various development facilities in the world. But the risk that these vaccine doses might go waste in case a vaccine trial does not produce the positive results. Third frontline candidate among the vaccines is INO 4800, which is being developed by the INO Biopharmaceutical, a US based company, and it is a vaccine which is based on a relatively new technique, and instead of using the virus vector, the genetic material which has the incorporated genes from the coronavirus is injected into the human body directly, and the human body cells are utilized to form the spike proteins for the coronavirus. And these spike proteins, once they are inside the human body mounts the immunological response against them, protecting itself from the further coronavirus attack. In the virus, in the vaccine, the optimized DNA plasmids are injected either intradermally or intramuscularly through the company's handheld smart device, which uses the technique of electroporation, in which the small pores are created inside the human cell wall, so that the virus can the DNA plasmids can enter into the human body cells to form the spike proteins. Among the animal studies, the vaccine was able to produce strong antibody in the T cell responses. Phase 1 trial of the vaccines had already started, and they have enrolled about 40 healthy volunteers. Preliminary data on the safety and the immune response is expected in late June. This vaccine is being backed up by the Coalition of Epidemic Preparedness and Innovations, a global vaccine research coalition founded by the Government of India and Government of Norway, and of course being backed by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And this coalition has awarded Inovio about 100 crores of rupees, that is $17 million, for the development of this vaccine. And the results of the trials are expected fully completed in the first half of 2021. Another candidate in the frontline vaccines is the Messenger RNA 1273 vaccine. It is being developed by a relatively new company called as Mrna, which is a US based biotechnology firm, and it is using a largely new approach for the vaccination, and the work on this vaccine has been pretty fast. This vaccine is being backed by the US government and the National Institute of Health in USA. And this vaccine, rather than using the DNA, rather it uses the messenger RNA of the virus inside the human body. And once this virus RNA is inside the human body, it starts forming the spike proteins of the novel coronavirus, against which the human body mounts the immunological response, protecting itself from the further attacks of novel coronavirus. The development of mRNA 1273 vaccine has been pretty quick. Phase 1 study was led by America's National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, and the 15 participants in each group were given a dose of 25 microgram, 100 microgram, and 250 microgram of dose. And with the results, it is found that even 25 microgram dose, patients were able to develop a good immunological response, as was seen in patients infected with the coronavirus and who developed COVID-19. So this virus initial results were declared on 18th May 2020. Encouraged by these results, further studies are being planned on a very fast scale, and at times the phase 1 and phase 2 and further phase trials are being merged so as to save time. As I said in my previous slide, the various phases of the trial are being overlapped over each other so as to develop the vaccine very fast. BNT162 is the fifth candidate, which is the frontline runner in the development of vaccines. It is being developed by the BioNTech, a German company, and the US pharmaceutical giant Pfizer. And it is, in fact, a group of four potential vaccines which are using the four different techniques to develop the messenger RNA concept, and it is being tested in the Germany as well as in the United States. Initial trial results are expected about a year to complete. Inactivated Chinese candidate is another vaccine which is using the killed coronavirus, and it is being developed by the state-run Chinese pharmaceutical company. Though the vaccine is listed in the WHO database but is relatively unadvertised outside the China media, vaccine is in the phase 2 clinical trials and is on track to enter into the phase 3 clinical trials. Overall development of vaccine may take about a year or so. This is Picovac, another Chinese candidate, and it is an inactivated vaccine. Previously, I told you about the killed vaccine. This is the live attenuated or inactivated vaccine being developed by the private biopharmaceutical company called as Sinovac. The vaccine is in combined phase 1, phase 2 trials. Vaccine's current stage results are expected to be completed in around 4 months. British American Tobacco, the second largest manufacturer of cigarettes, has recently claimed that their tobacco based vaccine against COVID 19 was found successful in the initial trials. Vaccine is based on an artificially built fragment of the novel coronavirus, which is inserted into the tobacco plant for the reproduction. Plants are harvested, the antigen is purified, and this antigen will be injected into the human beings to produce immunological response. It has shown to produce positive immunological response in phase 1 preclinical testing, and the now vaccine is ready for phase human trials after it gets the requisite approval from the United States FDA. So many vaccine candidates all across the world, many of them being in the front line. It might be disappointing that whether India will be able to succeed. There is nothing to disappoint. Any vaccine can fail at any moment. All the world, scientists have to put in their effort to make a good vaccine. And India's about 28 vaccines are there, which are working at their own pace and they might be successful. The good effort recognized by the WHO in the global list goes to the Ahmedabad based pharmaceutical major company Zydus Cadila Biological E Limited in Hyderabad and the Pune based Serum Institute of India. One should not undermine the capacity of Indians. Of course, the Indians have been able to export around 2 billion doses of various types of vaccine to the entire world. India's two companies, Serum Institute of India and the Biological Pharma, have the biggest capacity to produce vaccine in the world, and they are both actively involved in the vaccine production. This slide shows the various companies which are involved in the work of vaccines. Modi government has already allocated about 100 crores of rupees for the vaccination project. India has been supplying vaccines to more than 150 countries in the past, and we are famous for producing low cost vaccines. Ahmedabad based Zydus Cadila, Pune based Serum Institute of India, Indian Biosciences, Genome Biotechnology, Seagull Biosolutions are some of the firms actively engaged in the vaccine work. This slide shows the other important companies, and among them, most important is the Bharat Biotech, which is situated in Hyderabad and has one of the largest capacities in the world to produce vaccines. Poonawalla, who is the CEO of the Serum Institute of India, he was very happy to know about the Moderna's vaccine success. And he tweeted that it reiterates my point that it is a global effort and more than one vaccine is likely to succeed and could be manufactured in India. Great news. Serum Institute of India on 12th of May tweeted that they are aiming to produce about 20 to 40 million vaccine shots available to the Indian market by September October 2020 at a very affordable price of 1000 rupees per dose. The study was published in the Nature India when it was stated that the Bharat Biotech International company situated in Hyderabad is developing a nasal COVID vaccine by the name of Coroflu, and it is being developed in association with the Medicine University of USA, and this will be given by the nasal route to the patients. The University of Wisconsin research tweet in which they have stated that they have collaborated with the virologists, with the Bharat Biotech, and they have begun the development and testing of the unique vaccine against the COVID-19, and this vaccine is going to be called as the Coroflu, which is going to be given intranasally. Mr. Modi himself is looking directly at the development process of vaccine in India, and he held a meeting of the task force of the coronavirus vaccine development on 5th of May 2020, and he has been constantly encouraging scientists and making sure that the various administrative procedures do not come in the way of development of vaccines, and his efforts and the fast approvals were appreciated by the Serum Institute of India. The capability and the potential of Indian scientists was recognized by the United States President, and he recently said the US was working with India on developing a vaccine for COVID-19 and recognized Indian Americans as the great scientists and researchers who are contributing in the development of coronavirus vaccine. And we hope that we are able to have a safe and effective vaccine against the deadly contagion, and we hope that this vaccine is manufactured and given to the world by the India at a very low cost so that the mankind is saved. Thank you very much.